Good morning. That actually went pretty smooth, didn't it? About time. I say that because this week has been it's it's been terrible. It has. Can you hear me? And I'm asking this because once again I had a major. Good morning, Barb. Major computer crash to the point where I am just so frustrated with this laptop system that I am doing something completely different. But I think I'm up and running today. If during our broadcast the system decides it's overwhelmed and crashes, we'll just redo everything next week, just so you know. Now, here's the other thing. I don't have my two monitors set up. So you guys are like way, way, way far away. Excuse me. So you may find me going like this a lot to try to see you. Okay. So I want to take a moment to pop over here. Do. Yes, that's good. Come back to you. Okay. So today, good morning, Doug. So today we're going to do gradient digitizing for gradients, for color blending. Now, for those of you that have Bonnie Nielsen's book, The Punch, here, yeah, digit, di- yeah, digitizing for embroidery, Punch. Um, this is part of chapter. What was that chapter again? I wrote it down and now I don't remember. Was it chapter 14? Yes, chapter 14. And it's just the basic start. Good morning, Cindy. I'm going to lean forward. Some of you may not know, but I had a major computer crash and I'm dealing with less. So I'm going to lean forward so I can read what you guys got going. Danny, good morning, Danny. Danny, you're so sweet. Thank you. Cindy's here too. Cindy. Good morning. Working on a contest piece. Ooh, you're going to show it to me when you're done? All right. And I can't see the chat. Um, I'm not sure what's going on with chat in the YouTube. Uh, and I'm afraid if I go over there that my computer might not like the video and the video and the video. So I won't be able to investigate that until later. But here we go. We're going to talk. We got a lot to cover. So we're going to get started. All right. This is gradient color blending. There are two things you need to remember. The first thing for all of you graphics people out there, thread does not mix. Oh, thank you, Cindy. Just thank you, Cindy. You work on your project. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to see it. So again, thread color does not mix. If you lay a line of red thread on the table and you put a line of uh, yellow thread next to it, it's still yellow, red and yellow. It does not make orange. Okay, thread does not mix. What we do with embroidery gradients is we fool the eye to see what we want to see. Okay, so and that is the reason. Before we go too much further, that is the reason that satin stitches Do not make good gradient coloring. It just doesn't work well. First of all, it's too narrow, um, and you don't get the same lay of the threads. And we're going to go over that next. There are four things we're going to look at. We're going to look at stitch density. We're going to look at gradients with stitch angles, our thread color choices, and the thread types. So let's get started. Let me find my first. I got babies over here playing. Can you hear them? Bella is teaching Donna how to play. Okay, so this was our image that we had on our slide earlier. Most gradients work best with three colors. Yes, you can do a two-color gradient, and the principles I'm going to show you will work for a two-color gradient. They'll also work for a five-color gradient. And I'm not going to show you how to do a gradient using the accordion stitch in Wilcom or whatever gradient stitch tool you have in your software. We're going to do this old school. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way, one layer at a time. Okay, so the first thing we need to talk about is density. This, as you know, density, did you see that? I thought for sure it was going to crash. The density, our ultimate goal in density is we want between a dot 35 and a dot 45. Some people go a little higher, some people go a little lower, but you want to be consistent in the density of your finished piece. So, for example, this is, do not crash. Please do not crash. And of course, I don't know where anything is anymore. That's, there we go. Okay, so this is our full density. And I adjusted these densities in 0.20 degrees. So that was a 60, an 80. This is a 1. Then we bumped to 150 and ultimately 2. Just to give you an idea how this stuff widens out, how densities look. Okay. When you lay two layers of thread, one on top of the other, and that's all this is. This is a copy and paste. I started with the green, copy, paste, and I came up with the two pieces. What happens is they will lay exactly on top of each other. I'm going to show you that here as soon as, oh my God. All right. Oh, what a day, what a day, what a day, what a day. Where'd that go? Do, do, do. And make sure these are exactly in the same place. Okay. All right. So what you see here is that your two layers, remember we had a green layer and a red layer, are laying. It's what I get for shifting things around. are laying exactly on top of each other. But as I've said before, let me step back for a second. For those of you who do not know, you measure your density not by row to row, okay, because this is considered one stitch going all the way to the right, all the way back to the left. That is considered one line of stitching. So when you're measuring density, you need to measure from one line to the next. And of course, I'm in the wrong. Oh my goodness. You know, I had thought about postponing this until next week because I knew this was going to be a bit of a headache. But I know that I didn't want to disappoint you guys. Okay, so I don't know where it is. Got to be here somewhere, right? Nope, that's not it. There it is. Okay, so when you measure density, you need to measure from one line of stitching to the next. So this says .94. Even though we've said it's a spacing of one, the computer software is going to um, adjust that to make sure everything fits. Okay, so this is a 1 millimeter density. We have two layers, one laying exactly on top of the other. When those two layers stitch, even though they look like they are one right up on top of the other, the needle is going to take the path of least resistance, which means that it is not going to stitch in the exact same place as the previous line of stitching. It's going to deflect off. Sorry. Yeah, the computer is being sassy. Hopefully, this will be resolved next week. Okay, so what happens is your thread is actually going to slide off to, to stitch in between. And if we had a third color, let's make that one orange, it's going to slide off into a path of least resistance. All right. And this is where stitch angle comes into play. You can use whatever stitch angle you want. The thing you need to remember, and I'm actually going to go back to the previous slide because I like that one better. What you need to remember is that we want the thread to lay next to each other to give the eye that false sense of blending. And you can't do that. Let's go back to full color. If we take, you can't do that if your stitch angles are different. If the stitch angle is different, our first two colors are laying at a 0. This color is laying at a 15. This color is not going to blend in with the other two because it's laying on top of. Does that make sense? All right. So you can use whatever stitch angle you want. So if I take these two, did I do a 15? Yes, I did. And I make these a 15, we get our blend back. So again, you can use whatever stitch angle you want as long as all of your layers are sitting at the same angle. That's the easy one, right? Let's see, what was our next one? Where is it? So we talked about density, we talked about stitch angle. Now we're going to do color choices. You need to know how colors are going to look once they're stitched together. I'm going to go ahead and read this line. You'll want to be aware of how the colors will look once they are stitched. Remember, what you see on the computer is not what you're going to see when you stitch it out. When I do gradients, I create a color swatch to test run my colors. Sometimes you want to be very subtle in your color changes. Sometimes you want to be bold, but you're not going to know how that's going to actually work until you stitch it. And gradients, color blending, that is one technique of embroidery. You never want to skip the test stitch. Never want to skip the test stitch. You could think, oh, I got this covered. And then by the time you're done with finishing, good morning, Jesse. By the time you're done finishing out your design, you're thinking, oh my God, that color is terrible in there. It does not blend. It does not have a natural flow. Okay, I'm also going to bounce down here to threads. Before we go to color and doing the actual gradient, I want to talk to you about threads. You can use whatever threads you want. You can use a mix of threads. Ultimately, again, you're going to want to do a test stitch. Ultimately, you want to be aware of your final density after all those threads are stitched. Okay, and with that in mind, let's go back to nope, that's not the one I wanted. Yeah, nope, we talked about density. There we are. This is the piece I want to talk to you about. We want to go from this to this. And remember, I said I'm not going to use the accordion tool within your software or the gradient tool in your software. We're going to do this old school. You ready? All right. How many can tell me what density you need to start with in order to get to a dot 40 with 3 layers? I'll give you a hint. You're looking at it. As a side question, okay, hold on a second. Sorry about that. Like I said, the screen is a mile away. I'm blind as a bat. Here we go. Let's see. As a side question, Dan wants to know when is the right time. I'm curious about adjusting the backstitch option for the files and blending, standard, borderline, or diagonal. But that's something that can enhance blending. Honestly, I've never used a backstitch in blending. Oh, it's in my hand. Um, let's increase this. All right, let's find this one. Yeah, the backstitch is not, I don't think, I know why that didn't work. That didn't work because we're dealing with boxes. These all started out as a box, not as individual lines. Okay, we did not take it that far. Going back old school. We could. but we didn't take it that far. We started out with a box, and in that box, we removed the underlay, no underlay. And that's because once you're done, you've got all this built up. You don't need the underlay. Oh, good morning, Letty. We've already gotten started, but I can help catch you up. We're going to change our stitch angle to 0. I like working with 0. Don't have to, but I do. And there is, you need to be careful with your starts and stops. And I'll show you why that's important. If I had these starts and stops at the same place, the system is going to need to get from here to do all of this work and then come back down here to stop, which means it's going to put a line of stitches, a travel line in there. We don't want a travel line. So if we move our starts and stops, we still have a travel line here. Sometimes we may not be able to get away from that travel line. I don't understand why we have a travel line. There we go. Move your starts and stops as needed, or there is one tool in system that I like to use. This one here, it's called Trapunto. It will automatically remove those travel lines. So no underlay, consistent stitch angles for all layers. Try to avoid the travel line by moving your starts and stops as needed. I think we've got, oh, good girl. Um, where was I going? Sorry, I got distracted by the cat. Hello, Crystal. Sorry, we're having some computer issues this morning. My monitor is very far away, so I'm having to lean in to see what's being written when. We're going to we're going to build a gradient fill now. We're going to get rid of this one because we don't need it. I said we're going to get rid of this one because we don't need it. I'm back. But of course, do 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 do. You want to hide that. I'm glad that was an easy fix. Okay, so go back to our fit to screen, our true view. We bring this up to, oh, where to go? Next week will be better, I promise. This week, this week, come along. It was here just a minute ago. I know it was. This would be a terrible time to mention it, but I'm actually considering building classes, digitizing classes. I'd have to restrict it to like 10 people in a class. I want to keep it cost effective because, if you're new to digitizing, um, you can probably spend an hour, but you can't necessarily spend $100. Uh, I don't know where it went. Sorry. Here we are. That's all I wanted, to enlarge this so you guys can see it. Okay, so we started out with a box. We have 3 layers in our box. Of course, if you're working with whatever shape, it could be round, it could be rounds and squares, whatever shape you're using for your gradient. Today I'm just using boxes. And we know we've got 3 colors, so we know we want to divide this out into 3 sections because we need to build our layers. We need our first color, our second color, and our third color. And the one thing we're going to do with that, we are going to cut our shape into thirds, or excuse me, fourths. And we need to do that so that we have a buildup of layers. Earlier, I asked if anybody could tell me what our first density needs to be in order to build to a dot 40 density. I know I got distracted with the computer not working well, not flowing well, so I'll just tell you 120, 1.20. And that's because this 1.20 and this 1.20 and this 1.20 and this 1.20, when stacked one on top of the other, will give us a 40, 60, maybe a little more than 60. We'll have to redo the math. 80, 1.20, which is our gradient. We want to go from our fully filled to our most open, because the next layer is going to be 1.20, 1.20, 1.20, 1.20. And when it comes in together, this part here is going to match and meld up to that part there. Not the top. We don't want to go all the way to the top because remember, once we have all of these over here, we have our 40. So we want to, and I use lines for this. In fact, I'll just do it. I take a running stitch, and remember, whatever you put in here, you can always, your stitching, what you use for your graphs. I take that running stitch, and I know how many divisions I need. 1, 2, 3, 4. I know I need 4 divisions. but I don't know exactly where these divisions need to be. So I do the running stitches, and then I spread them out. I align them, space them, so they're exactly where they need to be. So I can use my cut tool and cut. All right, makes sense? Let's get rid of those. Okay. Sorry, I think I might have missed something here. Oh, thank you, Crystal. Um, so I know that this first one needs to have 4 sections, and then 3 sections, 2 sections, and 1 section. Because when we get all the way over here and put them together, and let's see if we can enlarge this. Maybe not so much. There we are. We can see how the layering is happening. All right. We go down here to the next one. So we have our full 40 up here, but it gets more open. And because this is the center one, we need that full 40 in the middle, right? Then on the bottom one, we need it to be open up here with our full 40 at the bottom. So that when we bring them all together, we have this. Now, like I said, not necessarily going to look its best on the computer. You actually have to test stitch. Whatever your colors that you're going to use, again, whether they're very subtle changes or very broad changes, you need to test stitch. Let me see. Yep, that's one I want to look. This is a picture from Eric Campbell. We all know Eric Campbell. For those of you who don't, he's a great educator. He has a YouTube channel called The Take Up. Look for it. Eric, Erich Campbell. Man is full of knowledge and is so willing to share it all. This is a 5-color gradient that he did. And what you can see here is it very subtly goes from this color to this color. You can do that. It's just a matter of setting up your densities. Okay, so here's what we've got. I want to show this to you again for those of you who might want to um, keep a picture of this. Just do a screen print. Do a screen print, and that'll help you remember your density cuts if you're doing a 3-layer density. Oh, here. Let's put another piece here. Let's put... That needs to be dot 40. There. That's what you need. I'm going to sit here for a minute. Do you have any questions about this? Remember, you can use any stitch angle you want. Just make sure that they are all using the same stitch angle. And that is important because the threads need to lay next to each other to give that illusion of blending. Ask away. What question do you have? And of course, I'm going to lean forward so I can actually read it. Diane, I didn't catch you there. Good morning. I'm going to pop over to another picture real quick. That's the stitch out. Now this is, I didn't use enough stabilizer. That's my bad. But this is the stitch out. Danny's having typing issues, and I'm just having overall um, computer issues. So let's see here. So the density, each group is 1.20. And then once you bring them all together, yes, because let's go back to that. Okay. So we're just going to take these pieces right here. All right? And we're going to copy those to another screen. Because the same thing works with all three rows. Okay. So this is 1.20. This is also 1.20. If we put them together, this section here, this first section is still a 1.20. But these three sections are now 1.60, or I'm sorry, 0.6, because 1.2 plus 1.2, actually, this always gets me. Have I mentioned before that math does not work for me anymore? 1.2 divided by 2 is 0.6. So this is a 60 density. Now we're going to take this one and put it here. Get a new color. Not a new color. Silly Willy. So now we have 3 layers. Okay, so 1.20 divide by 3. And again, 1.20 divide by 3. Oh, that's our 0.40. Do, do, do. Oh, anybody want a busted computer? Then I put another one here. No, do not change the color. I'm sorry, people. I am kind of scattered here. Okay, that's new. That's not what I want either. Okay, so this is 1.20. This is .60, .40, .30. Does that help? Do you see how um, each layer adds to the density, which is ultimately what we want? We want to add to the density in our layers so that by the time we're done, every section has the same density. Does that work? Remember, you want to keep your density, and in this case, I did a .3 between .35 and .45. Whatever fill density you are the most comfortable with. That's what you ultimately want. Danny says, yes, it makes sense. I can feel my brain stretching from the math. I know. Um, Math, would you believe I used to math and I were great friends years and years ago. And then somebody must have clipped a wire in there because math does not connect for me anymore. Okay. So that is our lesson on color blending, also known as gradient digitizing. You're very welcome, Danny. I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. Ah! I'm going to come up here, have a sip of coffee, see if you guys have anything else. Um, Let you know, I did go to DAX last week. I did take a couple of classes, looked at some new information. You're welcome, Diane. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't see you scroll past earlier. Uh, it's a whole long story, but I'm hoping everything will be better and back to working order next week. I went to DAX, took a couple of classes. I don't know if you're aware, but DAX is now under new ownership. All right, they actually did a pretty good job. The venue moved. It moved from Tinley Park to Schaumburg, which for me was great because it was right across the street from the IKEA, um, which allowed me a little side trip. Um, I did not take a lot of classes, but I did see a lot of direct to film. I did not see a lot of embroidery related product. I'm actually holding out for Applique Getaway for that, which is at the end of middle to end of July. So I'll be out there. Um, but in the meantime, I'll be here. If you have any questions, send me an email, quicktostitch@gmail.com. You can always find me on my website, quicktostitch.com. Facebook, Quick to Stitch, Needles McKee. And I think that's it. I think that's it. Gonna go over here and find this and wave and say goodbye. We'll see you next week. Fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon.